case takes place in northeastern Argentina, in a city called Resistencia, the capital of Chaco province. In June 2023, a case in this area garnered significant public attention. A 28-year-old woman suddenly disappeared. The incident is closely linked to a powerful political family, sparking massive protests across the province. The central figure of this story is 28-year-old Cecilia Marlene. Her parents divorced when she was in elementary school, and she has a younger sister. The two sisters lived together with their mother, Gloria. Cecilia's father was a gambling addict, and as a result, Cecilia endured a lot of suffering from a young age. Whenever her father came drunk, he would beat his wife and daughter, treating them as mere outlets for his anger. As for Gloria, she was deeply concerned for and loved her two daughters, especially Cecilia, whom she had struggled to bring into the world. Facing the relentless beatings from her inhumane husband, Gloria would shield her daughters, leaving her body covered in injuries. This was the main reason Cecilia's parents divorced. Gloria even agreed to let her ex-husband avoid paying monthly child support, just to keep both of her daughters with her. In Cecilia's eyes, her mother was an incredible woman. As a result, Cecilia was obedient and intelligent. After graduating high school with excellent grades, she was accepted into the prestigious Universidad Nacional del Nordeste, one of Argentina's top 6 universities. Upon graduation, Cecilia became a manager at a large company, earning a fairly substantial income by Argentine standards. However, up to this point, she had not dated anyone. Until 2020, with the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, many company employees had to self-isolate at home, including Cecilia. During this time, she found herself with a lot of free time, so she decided to try out a dating app. To her surprise, she discovered many well-off men on the platform, so she decided to upload her picture. Her outstanding appearance quickly caught the attention of many admirers. These men continuously sent messages, hoping to arrange a date with her. However, Cecilia had high standards and knew exactly what she wanted in a relationship. She wasn't interested in the men who eagerly approached her, but among them, one man who seemed very successful caught her attention. Unlike the others, he was polite and spoke with great respect. Cecilia felt that he was like a true gentleman. He shared interesting things with her every day, and after getting to know him, Cecilia learned that his name was Cesar Sena. He was very passionate about fitness, and even had his own gym. As time went on, they found a lot in common, including a shared love for small animals. After only communicating through their phones, they finally met in person for the first time in December 2021. After their conversation, they were both very pleased with each other and quickly became romantically involved. At this point, Cecilia believed she had found the love of her life. She even introduced Cesar to her mother. During their first visit to meet her future mother-in-law, Gloria was delighted to see her daughter had found such a suitable partner. At the dinner table, Gloria asked Cesar about his family background. Fortunately, his background was quite impressive as well. Cesar's father, Emerenciano Sena, was a well-known local politician. Cesar's mother, Marcela Acuña, is a very thoughtful woman. Moreover, she is actively involved in various political activities, such as advocating for women's rights. On top of that, Marcela is also strict with her son. As you can see, Cesar comes from a very good family background. However, at this point, Gloria's feelings shifted to concern for her daughter. She realized that the social gap between her daughter and Cesar was too great. They came from completely different social classes. After the meal, Gloria called her daughter aside to ask about the situation and offer her advice. She was worried that Cesar's parents might oppose the relationship. However, Cecilia confidently reassured her mother, saying, As long as we love each other, I believe Cesar and I are meant to be. Despite hearing this, Despite hearing this, Gloria's concerns didn't subside, but she chose to respect her daughter's decision. But as you might know, Argentina still has significant social class divisions. Therefore, Gloria's worries were not unfounded. Returning to the couple's relationship in August 2022, during a picnic, Caesar pulled a diamond ring from his pocket, knelt down, and proposed to Cecilia. It was an incredibly emotional moment, and Cecilia had no choice but to accept the proposal. Overjoyed, Cecilia shared a picture of the engagement ring on her social media with the caption, "King of my heart." Just a month later, they were married and began their new life together. However, instead of buying a new home, the young couple chose to live temporarily at Cecilia's aunt's house. This aunt, who had no children and was very close to Cecilia, treated her like her own daughter. Having Caesar and Cecilia living with her brought her great happiness. Everything seemed unusually peaceful until the end of May 2023, when Cecilia's mother-in-law arranged jobs for both her and her husband. However, these jobs were located in the far south of Argentina, in the city of Ushuaia, approximately 3,700 kilometers from Resistencia, where they currently lived. Cecilia didn't quite understand the situation. She didn't want to be far from her family, and she had no friends in Ushuaia. She told her husband, "I don't want to leave my hometown." But Caesar believed that the jobs his mother had arranged for them were very good, with high salaries, several times that of an average worker, making them a dream opportunity for many people. Although it would be far from home, the work was light and offered a lot of free time. Moreover, Caesar's mother had gone to great lengths to secure these positions for them. As a result, Caesar persuaded his wife to reconsider. His words left Cecilia feeling conflicted. Although the new jobs were not bad, she still didn't want to go. Seeing her struggle, Caesar said, "If you really don't want to go, we could take a trip to Ushuaia, check out the work environment, and then decide whether to accept the jobs." Caesar hoped to find a solution that would balance his wife's feelings while also taking advantage of the job opportunity. And most importantly, they hadn't gone on a honeymoon since getting married. This would be the perfect chance for them to travel together. At this point, Cecilia was convinced by her husband. She really wanted to travel, so she agreed to this plan. With this approach, Cesar proved himself to be very thoughtful and considerate. As for Cecilia, she shared her travel plans with her mother and aunt, and both of them agreed. On June 1st, 2023 at 2 p.m., Cecilia was packing at her aunt's house. She prepared a black suitcase filled with clothes and daily essentials for both her and her husband. While her aunt was helping her pack, she reminded Cecilia to be cautious and stay safe while traveling far from home. Cecilia smiled and replied, "I'm not a child anymore." That day, strangely, Cecilia's husband wasn't at her aunt's house. He had gone back to his home to discuss their trip. At 11 p.m., Cesar returned to Cecilia's aunt's house in a Toyota pickup truck driven by the family's chauffeur. Cecilia's black suitcase was loaded into the truck, but Cesar had very little luggage, just a red backpack. Her aunt was puzzled as to why Cesar was bringing so few belongings when they were going on such a long trip. Cesar explained, "We're going somewhere very far. Along the way, I'll stop to rest and shop." For this trip, they planned to drive to Corrientes and spend the night there, then fly to Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina, the next day. The young couple had planned to stay there for a few days, visit famous sites, and then purchase some daily essentials. Once everything was ready, they would board a plane and continue their journey to Ushuaia in southern Argentina. From their itinerary, you can see that they would be traveling from the north to the southernmost part of Argentina, which would surely be an exciting experience for Cecilia. So Cecilia and Cesar said goodbye to her aunt and left the house together, officially beginning their long journey. That night, the truck safely arrived in Corrientes, and the couple checked into a hotel. Cecilia was excited about the rest of the trip, as she had never flown before, and she felt a little nervous. Cecilia texted her friends, asking about what it's like to fly, and searched online for tips on flying, and those would be her final communications. By June 6th, 5 days after the couple had left home, Gloria went to the police station in a state of panic. She reported that her eldest daughter, Cecilia, was missing, and suspected that something had happened to her a few days earlier. Gloria mentioned that Cecilia's cell phone might have been taken over by someone else, and that person was pretending to be Cecilia, sending messages to the family to make it seem like she was still on the trip. This was very strange. Had Cecilia really gone missing? According to Gloria's recollection, on the second day of her daughter's trip at 1:30 p.m. on June 2nd, Cecilia's younger sister received a message from Cecilia. The message read, "I'm about to become a queen." In the following days, Cecilia continued to contact her family, sharing what she saw and heard, even talking about where she would have her wedding and where she might buy a house in the future. Although Cecilia maintained contact with her family, Gloria couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Normally, Cecilia didn't communicate with the family much, but in recent days, she had been texting very frequently, which was completely unlike her usual behavior. However, Gloria didn't think too much of it at the time, assuming that maybe her daughter, who hadn't traveled in a while, was just in a good mood and feeling more talkative this time. But 2 days later, in the late hours of June 4th, Gloria was abruptly awakened from a deep sleep by urgent knocking at the door. She quickly put on a coat and rushed to open it. When she did, she found two masked strangers standing before her. They identified themselves as agents and delivered the devastating news. "Your eldest daughter, Cecilia, has been in an accident." Gloria was shocked to hear the news. She couldn't understand why someone would deliver such information in the middle of the night. When she tried to ask for more details, the two agents turned and walked away. Gloria shouted after them, demanding they stop, but the two continued walking quickly without looking back, disappearing into the darkness within moments. She couldn't catch up to them. After returning home, Gloria was consumed with a terrible sense of unease. She grabbed her phone and tried to message Cecilia, asking if she was safe. To her surprise, Cecilia responded quickly, despite it being quite late. However, this didn't ease Gloria's growing suspicions. Gloria wanted to video call her daughter, but Cecilia replied, "The camera on my phone is broken, so I can't video call right now." Cecilia added, "I'll send my phone in for repair and contact you later." Not being able to see her daughter's face only deepened Gloria's doubts. She asked Cecilia to send a voice message so she could hear her voice, but a long time passed with no reply. Eventually, Cecilia sent a voice message, and Gloria quickly opened it. But the content was strange. It had nothing to do with their conversation. It seemed like the recording had been made a long time ago. Indeed, Cecilia's younger sister confirmed that this was a recording her sister had sent her a long time ago. This only made Gloria more convinced that something had happened to her daughter. After that, the younger sister tried calling Cecilia, but no one answered. She then attempted to call from her mother's phone, but this time Cecilia's phone was turned off. Gloria became increasingly worried and asked her younger daughter to call Cesar, Cecilia's husband. After a long wait, Cesar finally answered the call, but when asked about Cecilia's whereabouts, he hesitated and couldn't give a clear answer. The younger sister asked to speak with Cecilia, but Cesar said, "Your sister isn't here. I don't know where she went." This response left Gloria stunned. They were supposed to be on their honeymoon together, so how could they not be together? Cesar then explained that after they arrived in Buenos Aires, the two of them had a fight due to some disagreements. At that moment, Cecilia told Cesar, "I don't like you at all, and the only reason I'm with you is because of your wealth. I'm telling you now, I've had a new boyfriend for a long time, and I hope you'll stop looking for me." After saying this, Cecilia packed her belongings and left. Gloria found this story even harder to believe. She knew that Cecilia was not someone who craved fame or luxury. On the phone, Cesar insisted that he wasn't lying, and that it was Cecilia who had been dishonest. He claimed that they had actually been separated for a long time. Although they still lived together as a couple, the love between them was gone. Cesar also said that Cecilia was very concerned with appearances. On one hand, she didn't want others to know about their situation, but on the other hand, she wanted to maintain the status of being married into a wealthy family. He claimed she was so embarrassed by this that she didn't dare to tell her family and had asked Cesar to keep it a secret as well. However, no matter what Cesar said, Gloria didn't believe him. She knew her daughter better than anyone. Cesar then stopped talking and hung up. Over the next 2 days, Gloria and her younger daughter tried various ways to reach Cecilia, but they were unsuccessful. They also called Cecilia's friends, but all of them said they didn't know where she was. With no other options left, Gloria went to the police to file a report. After receiving the information, the police immediately issued a missing person notice. The missing person was Cecilia.
Gusto ko ng trabaho, pero gusto ko lang palagi yung higa. Wala bang ganun? Gusto ko na lang maging isang princess. Maging hot sa freezer para may sindot ng pag-higa ko sa malamig. Ay, mag-Shopee ambassador kaya ako.
The missing person was Cecilia, 28 years old, 160 centimeters tall, with dark brown hair, last seen on June 1st. At that time, she was wearing gray jeans, a dark gray jacket, and gray sneakers with pink patterns. Regarding Gloria's encounter with the two agents that evening, the police collected footage from surveillance cameras around Gloria's house, but they couldn't identify the two individuals or find any other clues. It seemed that these people had deliberately avoided the camera lenses. According to the investigation, after getting married, Cecilia had left her previous job and started working as a nurse at a local hospital. This job was completely unrelated to her field of study, but it was arranged by her mother-in-law. Marcella felt that Cecilia's previous job paid too little and had no prospects for growth. Although Cecilia didn't like the new job, she couldn't refuse it. In fact, the hospital where she worked was one that her in-laws had invested in, and arranging a job for Cecilia was just the beginning. For others, this would undoubtedly be seen as a great opportunity. However, Cecilia didn't enjoy the work at all. She had no interest in working at the hospital. What she found unbearable was that most of the hospital staff were acquainted with her in-laws, making her feel constantly monitored and uncomfortable. She began to complain to her husband, telling him, "I want to quit working at the hospital. I really don't like it." But her husband didn't understand her feelings, thinking that she was just not yet accustomed to the new job. A few days later, Cecilia finally submitted her resignation at the hospital. Cesar didn't say anything when he found out. To him, his wife quitting her job wasn't a big deal. Cesar didn't lack money. Even if he didn't earn anything, his parents would still send him a monthly allowance. After quitting, Cecilia decided to look for a job she truly enjoyed. But after submitting applications for several days, she still hadn't received any responses. This made her feel discouraged. It was around this time that Cecilia realized her period was late, and she started experiencing a loss of appetite and frequent nausea. She suspected she might be pregnant and immediately shared the news with Cesar. Both were overjoyed, and Cesar, being thoughtful, suggested that Cecilia should stop working altogether and stay home to focus on the pregnancy. Shortly after receiving the news, Cecilia's in-laws immediately sent various nutritional supplements. However, what no one expected was that Cecilia's pregnancy was a false alarm. The doctor explained that the symptoms she was experiencing, which resembled pregnancy, were likely due to the significant stress she had been under recently. At that moment, everything felt like a burst bubble for her. Cecilia broke down, crying in Cesar's arms. To comfort her, Cesar came up with an idea. Since they both loved small animals, why not start a pet cafe together? He believed that this new type of establishment would surely succeed. Cecilia was instantly excited by the idea, and they quickly set the plan in motion. Cecilia handled all the preparations, while Cesar covered the expenses. By the end of 2022, their cafe officially opened. The cafe was decorated in a very modern style, and they allowed customers to bring their pets to dine with them. After opening, the cafe attracted many young customers who brought their beloved pets to enjoy the experience. Business gradually picked up, and Cecilia was busy every day, but still felt very happy. Cesar would sometimes come to the cafe to pick her up after work, and that was all she needed. However, the joy didn't last long. Once the novelty wore off, the number of customers began to decline, and their startup started losing money. Continuing the business only led to further losses. Finally, in March 2023, their pet cafe declared bankruptcy and was successfully sold. Cecilia managed the proceeds from the sale and used the money to buy herself a bicycle. Encouraged by her husband, Cecilia decided to open a fitness club. Perhaps due to the influence of her in-laws, many people were eager to invest in the fitness club, but Cecilia declined all offers. She withdrew all her savings, combined them with the money earned from the pet cafe business, and successfully established the new fitness club. However, her mother-in-law, Marcella, seemed displeased with this, and arranged for Cecilia and her husband to work in Ushuaia. Cecilia felt she couldn't refuse, so on June 1st, the couple set off for Ushuaia. This eventually led to Cecilia's disappearance. Returning to the police investigation, 2 days after the missing person alert was issued, the police still hadn't received any leads. Given the current situation, the police agreed that this was not a simple missing person case. They then summoned Cecilia's husband, Cesar, to the police station to assist with the investigation. He was the last person to see Cecilia before she disappeared, but Cesar didn't come alone. He was accompanied by lost contact with her and had no knowledge of her whereabouts. The police then interviewed Cecilia's aunt about her daily life. The aunt described Cecilia as a very resilient person with a strong sense of self-respect, completely different from how Cesar's family portrayed her. Since getting married, Cecilia and Cesar had moved into the aunt's home. Cecilia was very tidy and always cared deeply about her husband's well-being. In contrast, Cesar was extremely lazy. He didn't care about cleanliness and even disliked bathing, only doing so when Cecilia reminded him. However, Cecilia never complained. Even when she was busy with work, she made an effort to cook for the family. Cesar was very picky about his food, and Cecilia would always the dishes to suit his tastes. The aunt added, "I advised Cecilia to ask Cesar to share some of the household chores, but she didn't seem to mind. She felt that cooking every day for the person she loved was a source of happiness." The aunt also mentioned that Cecilia deeply loved her husband and sacrificed a lot for him. However, Cesar's mother consistently refused to accept her as a daughter-in-law. After the marriage, Marcella frequently called Cesar, urging him to return home, and even sent the family driver to pick him up. Each time this happened, Cecilia felt deeply saddened, unsure of what she could do to win her mother-in-law's approval. Cecilia's aunt also revealed that her niece registered her marriage with Cesar on September 16th of last year. At that time, Cesar's social media profile listed his age as 25, but in reality, he was only 18 years old. In Argentina, the legal marriage age for both men and women is 18. Due to the pandemic, the young couple decided to register their marriage first and hold the wedding ceremony at a later date. On the day of the marriage registration, Cecilia wore a constant smile of happiness. Her family and friends gathered to celebrate the young couple, but none of the groom's family members attended, not even Cesar's parents. Marriage is a significant event in one's life, and Cesar is the only son, yet his parents didn't attend or even call to congratulate them, which puzzled many people. People began questioning Cesar about this, causing him to appear slightly embarrassed. At that moment, Cecilia quickly stood up to explain that Cesar's parents were attending a very important event at the time and had actually congratulated them earlier. With that, the subject was dropped. If what Cecilia's aunt said is true, it's clear that Cesar's parents were never pleased with Cecilia from the start. This strongly suggests that Cesar's family may be directly connected to Cecilia's case. The next day, Cecilia's mother and aunt went to the police station for the second time, bringing new information to the authorities. They also brought along Cecilia's friend, known only as A, whose name has not been disclosed, to testify. A revealed that Cecilia had confided in her that Cesar had a violent streak. In May of this year, after an argument between Cecilia and Cesar, he physically assaulted her and even choked her. He threatened that if she ever displeased him, he would kill her entire family. Cecilia was terrified, so she confided in A, but A didn't know what to do in this situation. Following this revelation, some internet users thoroughly searched Cesar's social media accounts and discovered that on June 6th, Cesar did indeed attend an event with his mother. During the event, Cesar appeared very lively and smiled frequently. He posted several photos from the event on social media. In one of the photos, someone noticed scratch marks on Cesar's neck. Subsequently, a person known as B, who chose to remain anonymous, informed the police that he had seen Cecilia standing in front of Cesar's family home on June 2nd. This directly contradicted what Cecilia had previously said, that on June 2nd, they were preparing to board a plane in Buenos Aires. So why did Cecilia appear in front of her
Pay later, pay in installments kahit walang credit card. Billings yan. That's why I love Billings. You can shop online, in-store everywhere, settle bills, get cash, pay later, everything. Download the Billings app now, available on App Store and Google Play Store. Hi, I'm Cici. An AI prank on your phone. Want to know today's weather in 1 second? Cici, do you want someone to give you a dressing guide? Cici, what should I try in Singapore?
Singapore is known for its diverse and delicious food options.
You can also get help in Cici for a travel caption for your social media. All problems can be solved with one app. Cici, download today.
in-laws' home. Based on B's testimony, the police conducted a search of Cesar's home. At the time, only Cesar's father, Emiliano Sena, was present. He seemed slightly confused by the sudden arrival of the police, but invited them in to search the house freely, appearing very confident. The police search lasted several hours, during which they thoroughly examined Cesar's house inside and out. They discovered something unusual on a mattress in a small room. The mattress had several yellowish stains, and after testing with luminol, the stains glowed, indicating that they were blood. Additionally, the police found a burned wallet and several prohibited weapons in the house. Moreover, a large sum of money was discovered in Emiliano's bedroom. When questioned about the source of the money, Emiliano gave vague answers. The police then arrested him. DNA testing later confirmed that the bloodstains on the mattress belonged to Cecilia, the missing person. As a result, Marcelo was summoned by the police and became a suspect in the case. Meanwhile, Cesar's whereabouts remained unknown. The police immediately issued a nationwide arrest warrant for Cesar. On June 11th, Cesar voluntarily turned himself in. After arresting the entire family, the police interrogated them about Cecilia's current whereabouts. Despite the intense questioning, all three remained silent and refused to say a word. The police then investigated and questioned Cesar's neighbors to see if they had noticed anything unusual before or after Cecilia's disappearance. One woman told the police that on June 5th, Emiliano had asked her if she needed a mattress, but she declined. The police also reviewed surveillance footage from the cameras outside Cesar's home and neighboring houses. After thoroughly examining the footage, they discovered that around 10 p.m. on June 1st, Cesar and the family's private driver left the house to pick up Cecilia. According to their previous plan, they were supposed to reach Corrientes that night and then fly to Buenos Aires the next day. However, the surveillance footage showed that on the morning of June 2nd, they returned to Cesar's home. The footage also captured Cecilia standing at the door, which matched the earlier testimony given by Cesar's family. At around 10:30 a.m., Cesar left the house alone and returned an hour later. At 1:02 p.m., Cesar left the house again, this time carrying a black plastic bag. The police noted that Cesar had 3 scratch marks on his neck as he exited the house. 4 hours later, at 5 p.m., the family's driver and Cesar's mother returned home. At 5:12 p.m., the driver left on a motorcycle by himself. Later that evening, the driver returned to Cesar's home in a Toyota pickup truck, went inside briefly, and then drove away at 7:27 p.m. The police suspect that during this time, Cecilia was murdered, and that the Toyota pickup truck was used to transport her body for disposal. At 9 p.m., Cesar and his parents left their home. Surveillance footage from that night showed them driving to another property owned by Emma Lenciano, located on the outskirts of the city. On June 12th, the police conducted a search of this suburban property, and upon arrival, they discovered that a married couple was living there. This couple was responsible for taking care of the property. The police questioned them about the Cesar family's visit on the night of June 2nd, asking what they were doing there so late. The couple claimed that the family stayed only briefly and then left, insisting that nothing unusual happened. Let's pause here for a moment. Clearly, the couple wasn't being truthful. It's highly unlikely that the entire family would drive out to a remote property in the middle of the night just to chat for a bit and then leave.
Feels like a dream, feels like magic. Now I believe I can have it. Tell me, all my wishes came true. Shop like a billionaire. Shop like a billionaire.
Download the Temu app and shop like a billionaire.
Moreover, these two were merely employees of the Cesar family, so it's doubtful there was anything of great importance between them. Therefore, the police immediately began a thorough search. In an abandoned pigsty at the back of the property, they found signs of burning. Among the ashes, they discovered a small bone fragment. After laboratory analysis, it was determined to be a human bone, but it was too badly burned to extract DNA. At the end of June, the police conducted another search in a residential area named after Emma Lenciano. This was because a new asphalt road had been laid in this area shortly after Cecilia's disappearance. The police suspected that part of her remains might have been buried beneath the asphalt. They brought in professional construction workers to dig up the road, but aside from sand and rocks, no human remains were found. The police then conducted a thorough search of the residential area, and from a nearby riverbed, they retrieved a burned-out travel trunk, reduced to just its frame. In the same area, they also found a ring, a pair of earrings, a pendant, and a human finger bone. After Cecilia's mother identified them, it was confirmed that these items belonged to her daughter. With this evidence in hand,
Hello, Mickey Mouse 11. What is your location or your country? My country is Philippines and we have this online shop. Thank you for subscribing to my channel, Mickey Mouse.
Police arrested the family's driver, Cesar's mother, and the couple who looked after the suburban property. During the police investigation, the driver was the first to be interrogated. He revealed that on June 2nd, Cesar suddenly told him there was no need to go to the airport. They got out of the car midway, and the driver didn't know where the two went. Later that afternoon, Cesar called him back. When the driver entered the house, he found Cecilia lying motionless on the floor, no longer breathing. Immediately, Marcella instructed the driver and his wife to help clean up the scene. At first, the driver didn't want to comply, knowing it was illegal. But Marcella reassured him, saying that he shouldn't worry because she would take full responsibility if anything happened. Additionally, she promised the driver a generous reward. Tempted by the money, he and his family agreed to go along with the plan. The couple who looked after the suburban property also confessed. They admitted that on the night of June 2nd, Cecilia, already lifeless, was gagged and brought to the suburban house. They didn't know what had happened, only that Marcella disliked her daughter-in-law. They heard that Marcella didn't want to pass on the family's wealth to the daughter-in-law and only wanted to leave it to her son. When they saw Cecilia being dragged out of the car, they were terrified. However, Marcella threatened them and ordered them to keep quiet, warning that they would lose their jobs if they didn't comply. At the time, the couple had no other place to go, so they were very afraid. Afterward, Marcella's family burned Cecilia's body in the pigsty behind the house. The couple who looked after the property didn't participate in this process. They were too terrified. Faced with such overwhelming evidence, Marcella finally confessed her guilt to the police. She claimed that Cecilia was the victim of her own plot and insisted that neither her husband nor her son were involved. Marcella admitted that she never liked Cecilia as a daughter-in-law. Cecilia was much older than her son, and the family couldn't accept someone of her background. Marcella felt that Cecilia had taken her son's love away from her and was too selfish to let him return home. She also said that she had long reached a point where she couldn't stand Cecilia anymore, which is why she wanted her to disappear. However, the police didn't believe Marcella's testimony, suspecting that she was trying to protect her son. In the end, the family couldn't withstand the pressure, and Cesar confessed to murdering Cecilia. He stated, "I loved my wife very much, but my mother always thought she wasn't good enough. Under my mother's influence, I gradually came to believe that Cecilia was only with me because of her greed for the family's wealth. In reality, the couple's marriage had been strained from the beginning. Even though they had married in September 2022, they were already considering divorce, but Cecilia kept this a secret from her family. It was unclear why she felt the need to hide it. Under his mother's influence, Cesar eventually harbored malicious intentions and ultimately acted against his wife. Additionally, Emiliano also admitted to being involved in the crime. There are rumors that the two agents who appeared at Gloria's house on the night of June 4th might have been members of the faction opposing Emiliano. It's believed that they were monitoring the family and happened to witness the crime. However, for reasons unknown, they didn't report it to the police, but instead assumed false identities to inform the victim's mother. In the aftermath of the crime, Gloria was heartbroken over the loss of her daughter, and many people mourned Cecilia. In July 2023, a spontaneous protest was organized, demanding justice for Cecilia and her family. Cecilia revealed to the media that after her daughter was dead, she received a threatening message stating, "If you do anything, your other daughter will face the same fate." Cecilia's aunt also received similar threats, and their family experienced power outages and internet disruptions. Despite these pressures, they remained determined to seek justice for Cecilia, regardless of the intimidation from sinister forces. At the time, Emiliano was still a significant local figure, and despite the crime, he retained considerable support from the community. He was also a close friend of the current governor of Chaco province. As of now, the truth about the case has been uncovered, but it has not yet gone to trial. The trial is expected to begin in early 2024, and it's possible that more details will emerge during this process. However, as of now, no new information has been released from the ongoing investigation. We'll have to wait and see what sentences will be handed down to Cesar Sena's family. That brings us to the conclusion of today's story. Although the perpetrators have not yet been sentenced, this case leaves us with valuable lessons. Cecilia and Cesar Sena could have had a beautiful ending if Marcella had respected her son's choices. Things wouldn't have escalated if Cesar had stood firm and distinguished right from wrong. Unfortunately, Cecilia, the tragic victim, didn't protect herself and clung to something that wasn't truly hers. Finally, I want to thank you all for watching until the end. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to give us a like and leave a comment. Goodbye and see you next time.
Megan was one of the most charitable people I knew. She was always so giving of herself. She was a kindergarten teacher. She was the most amazing mother. She was my little sister.
Ay,
But I really looked up to her. She was very loving, caring, and the last of my three.
A bit of a daddy's girl. Yep. You know, we were close. It was a Saturday morning. We walked in and when we got to the dining room, we saw her laying on the floor. I thought she had slipped and fell. Then we saw the blood and then I saw the gun kind of tucked against her leg.
Hollering, screaming, yelling at Steve to call 911. She was barely breathing.
I thought she had shot herself. I mean, I didn't see anybody else around.
Teka lang, kung pinapost mo kaya yung mga Shopee affiliate link sa mga link yan, ha? Shopee affiliate? I-open mo lang yung Shopee app, tapos itap mo yung affiliate program. Pindutin mo yung enter the necessary information, tapos goods na. Yung mga binibili mo, i-post mo yung Shopee affiliate link kapag may bumili from that link, you earn commissions. You earn enough commissions that yung next na laran mo is basically free. O ano?
Dali sa Shopee. Shopee!
Young holiday ham, premium ham made from 100% whole wheat. Come on and taste it.
Next morning at 7:55, they pronounced her dead.
Pretty quickly, the police declared it a suicide, then the medical examiner declared it a suicide. What was your reaction?
No way. Something's not right.
I knew something was wrong with this case from the start. I knew she had killed herself. That blood spatter on top of it was very important.
We were on the computer researching and learning about ballistics, about blood spatter. The gun. I would expect if the barrel of a gun is up against someone's temple that there would be blood and hair on that barrel. And